I wanted to have you on, Josh, because the last couple episodes I've done have been um I've I've called them "This Means War," like fighting for your family, and listed out some things that I feel like is important for us as Christians to prioritize or kind of set into create boundaries for our families. Um I'm a father. I got three girls. You're a father, and I've always appreciated the conversations we've had in regards. I feel like the last couple years we've had some keep standing type of conversations, and there's times that there's times that you can feel kind of lonely, and a phone call to a friend helps
Yeah.
that. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that you've been that for me over the last couple years. And you're a smart dude. You're a wise man. You're a wise old geezer. And so I've always appreciated our talks. And you were a voice that I wanted to have on. Um, you shared with me that you went back and listened to those episodes, so you're kind of familiar with what I had talked about on there. I wanted to
hmm
get just kind of give me your opinions or your thoughts about the culture today as a father, as a husband, as a believer. How do you navigate like raising a family in this culture that's pretty counter to what we believe in, as
hmm
Christian men? What's some of the, I don't know, some of the issues that maybe you faced as to raising a godly family?
Yeah. Well, we're still in, well, first of all, speaking of those phone calls, you've been that for me a lot too. And it's
Yeah,
just funny how that we can see clearly when it's not our mess.
yeah,
And so things that I get attributed to as wisdom is like, no, man, I'm just not in the forest and you are. And like,
yeah. That's
let me
good.
just show you what it looks like. And then you do the same for me,
Yeah,
So,
that's good.
and um, so it's important
Yeah,
to have that. So I'm very grateful for
yeah,
you. And I appreciate you saying that. Oh yeah, the cult. So man, you know, just being a dad in general, being a father in general, it just changes from year to it's just a constant progression. And I'm still learning. And you want to be a good dad, good father. We want to be good parents. And um, but
yeah. What's
it
that look like, right? Like, what's that
yeah.
mean to be a good parent in this
hmm
crap?
Well, and I think a lot of it has to do with your guide, the way kind of I see it, and my Nacy sees it. It's like it's our job to. I feel like it's a balancing act. There's a tension between introducing as they hit certain ages, you're introducing them to different parts of the culture.
Yeah,
All right, so especially because it's a luxury being a homeschool family that you really get to uh, you really get to choose what you expose your kids to.
right.
And you need to be, and I believe we need to be choosing what we that should
Yeah,
we should be a filter for that. That's what, but they do. I think they do need to be exposed at age appropriate times, and not just arbitrary, but actually like we've chose. We want to teach you about this thing that you are about to get exposed to,
mm,
or possibly. So, hey, you're in a new friend group now that you're in these activities and you could be exposed to A, B, C, and D. Let me tell you what those things mean. Let me tell you like how that can maybe make you feel when you're exposed to that stuff. And let me show you that you can, if there's anything that you get exposed to that's not that, this, let's talk about it.
yeah,
And so the culture in general is this one big uh, buffet of like you know poison and toxicity, but also good things. But it's just everything. It's life. It's the real world, and so
yeah,
it's very much um, it's not all bad. you know,
Well,
but
it's crazy what you said before about, because we homeschool as well, so our kids haven't been. It's like our ninth year of homeschooling.
mhm.
It feels like a really long time, and it is. I think I'm I've always said it was the greatest thing we've ever done as parents was homeschooling or deciding to
Yeah.
do that. But
Can't believe it's been 9 years because like I remember when y'all started.
I know it's crazy, but it is like it's one of those things where it's like you made a point that I think is valid, and I kind of forget about. But as homeschoolers, we really don't have to deal with a lot of the things that make my blood boil.
Right.
like we can watch YouTube, we can see all the crap that's going on in the public school systems, and it infuriates me, and it makes me really, really angry. But then if I really think about it, I'm like, my kids aren't going to experience that. You know,
Hmm.
my kids are never going to have to experience that. I chose to. They can learn about it, like you said, from a distance, and they can
Through
learn about
you.
it from our point of view, not
Yeah,
from being in amidst the lions, right? And
absolutely.
and that's good. That's a good thing that we get to not have to experience it. But I think what's assuring to me, like, it still pisses me off. Like, I'm
Hmm.
still very upset that I'm in a culture that's like that. And
Hmm.
so for me, it brings out that, this podcast is the Kingdom Bringer podcast. So the idea is like bringing the kingdom to different areas of the planet wherever I go. And so there is that aspect of like, no, I'm upset. This isn't right. Like this isn't God's design. This isn't what I want to raise my kids in as a culture. And so, um, yeah,
Hmm.
that was a long winded thing. But you made a point that was very. A lot of times we can get so upset that it drives us to anxiety and it drives us to like depression or just anger about the thing. But we have
Hmm.
choices to make. Like I made choices for my family that
Yeah.
we're never going to have to experience those things that are infuriating me. You know, and
Hmm.
you guys, how long have you guys been homeschooling? From the beginning?
10. No, my oldest is 16 and we pulled him out of first grade. He went to
Okay.
first grade.
Okay.
So,
About 10 years, about the same.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. So, but you're right. I think and it's not just homeschoolers. If you're an adult and you're listening to this, you're
Yeah.
not exposing yourself to things that you don't want to be exposed to.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
I'm not going if you've had a toxic job before, I mean, you can quit the job, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
you can get a different one.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not hanging out. Guess what? I'm a mature Christian, all right? Still maturing, but mature, been a Christian for a long time. And I'm not hanging out with, frankly, godless people
Yeah. Right.
as a matter of routine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I play golf with them and go to the restaurants. That's not, I'm just saying, like, as a matter of, like, I'm not surrounding myself with godless people 8 hours a day.
Yeah. That's good.
and, and what would happen, do you think, if I was?
Yeah.
You think that might wear on me?
Yeah.
And so we're choosing that for our children, but I think that back to your question is like how do you navigate culture? We're choosing to expose them to things through training and through being prepped. One of our goals is like we just don't ever want our kids to kind of be blindsided by anything.
That's good. Yeah.
And then you start getting blindsided by things and you're like, I've never heard of this before, seen this before. This is making me feel weird, uncomfortable, gross. No one's ever told me. And so we're always Nathan and I are always trying to have those conversations ahead of time with all our kids about anything, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. There
And
comes a place, I've spent a lot of time shielding my kids, and I've got, like I said, I've got three daughters, and I feel like there may be a little bit of a different approach. You've got a good mixture there yourself. You got six kids
mhm,
now. And you got a
mhm,
couple boys, a few girls. I think the way we handle girls is maybe different than the way we handle boys a little bit. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the experience with the boys, but I can imagine I'm always going to have that desire to like protect my daughters, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I've had those walls up of protection for a while with my girls, but one of the things that I talked about the last couple episodes was the importance of teaching our kids about sex.
Mm-hmm.
And that I think I actually learned that from you guys. I think you and your wife talked
Yeah.
about that often.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember growing up as a kid, and my parents gave me the talk, and it was a graphic talk, and it was fine. It was great. But when you're a parent, you're just it's something worth navigating and worth figuring out,
You have
what's
to.
going to work best for you and your
Yeah.
family. But to your point, it is so important for us to be ahead of the game with that,
Yes.
because they are sexualizing our children earlier and earlier and earlier.
Oh yeah.
And that's, I don't know. I was watching something just the other day about there was some teacher was explicitly talking about gay sex to the students in the class. And they were high school kids, so most of them were
Mm-hmm.
aware, but there was no like, it looked like commonplace, like they were just talking about what we would consider sexual immorality stuff, a lot of stuff that is not in line with God's design for what I believe sex is, and
Yeah.
and what I want to teach my kids. And that was a good sign of what the world is doing with our children, is teaching them really the opposite of what we want our kids to know and understand about sex. And so being ahead of that, what are some other things that you think are
Mm-hmm.
important for us to be ahead of, um, when it comes to cultural stuff?
Yeah. Um, well, that's a big one. It's not just gay or gay. I mean, now we're talking about gender confusion
Yeah.
and ever like this message that you can kind of be whatever you feel like on a day, and it's not important if you're a man or a woman. It's like it's almost like it can change all the time. It's very fluid. That's a big one. I think that's it's and so we don't have like a book. So for stuff about sex, we have several good resources that books we've ordered and like read with each of our kids.
Yeah.
Um and want them to know. So it wasn't like we were having to I mean, it's still awkward-ish, but
Yeah.
it wasn't like, hey, let's sit at the foot of the bed and I'm gonna have this horrible talk with you. It's we had these resources to go through page by page, and I'm like,
It,
oh, this is great.
dude, it's less awkward than having to clean up messes, though.
Oh
You
my
know,
gosh, yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah,
the whole thing. Like my kids heard about sex from me and
yeah.
their mom. You know,
And it's I mean, and it's just really shouldn't be a it's God created it. It should be a thing that is very, in a weird way, it's just very easy to talk about. It should,
yeah,
and not a shameful thing.
yeah,
Celebrated in the course of marriage for pleasure, but also procreation. And procreation, this is like probably my biggest thing I have against a lot of the gender stuff and even the LGBT is just it goes against God's design for procreation.
yeah,
So not just for sex, but for actually the ability to reproduce, go be fruitful and multiply, and we are, yes, we do have 6 kids, so we're sort of living it, but we're big believers in God's kingdom through family.
yeah,
Um, uh, so I in my own view, I feel like that's how. Um, so this is a sidetrack kind of, but it fits in. So the more and more I get older, the more and more I realize how much what you think about the end times matters for everything else you do in your life.
yeah,
So it used to be, I used to have like, oh, the stuff about Revelation, I don't even want to think about it. Nobody even knows. Who cares? It's all about Jesus, Jesus, But
yeah,
that can take a million different forms.
yeah. Just preach the gospel, bro.
But if you, and so then there's kind of two main views on how this is all going to go down and end. Either the church dies a slow death and, Jesus comes back and is victorious in spite of a dying church, or does he conquer through his church in an ever increasing and expanding church kingdom?
Yeah.
So, though, and so the way so if you zoomed out in all of human history, are there more, like, not this little small window of the last 50 years, forget about that. But if you just zoomed out and looked at the chart, are there more Christians now or 1,000 years ago or 2,000 years ago? Put it on a graph.
Right.
So we're at the most in like human history.
Yeah.
So if you like, the chart is
The
going
church
up.
is growing. Yeah.
Yeah, the kingdom is like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I can get, that's almost the only thing I need to look at for me personally. I'm
Yeah.
just like, look, yeah, we might be in a small dip right now culturally, because there's a lot of people that don't go anymore and they don't proclaim any kind of faith or belief or whatever. But so all that to say is, how does that grow? So if I believe that I'm a victorious church and I want to grow the kingdom, what is one surefire way of growing at least 6 disciples, and then
Yeah.
also
Make it.
make them, and then also then they have six and six and six. So
Yeah.
you're talking about exponential,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Expansion in the kingdom.
Yeah.
And so this is where it's like, okay, this is where I really drives me nuts about God's created order for procreation and then everything. And so I like to come at it from that angle, just kind of as an aside.
Yeah.
I like to say, like, this is, and so when we're talking to our kids about, because here's the trap that a lot of Christian people will fall into with their kids, because especially ones that are going to school and being indoctrinated, and they know, well, Jerry, he's gay at school and he's super nice. So you're saying
Yeah.
he's going to hell?
Right.
So you're gonna get that stuff.
Yep.
And I've seen that cause families to tear apart, because the kids are no longer believers, because they can't imagine
Yeah.
that a loving God would send,
Yep.
their good gay friend. You know
That's
what I'm
right.
talking about,
I
right?
do.
So
I do. Yeah.
all that to say is, like, so now that we're talking to our kids about it, it's like, I don't even have to get into necessarily that part of it, although we do believe it's against God's word, it's sin. But also, it's like, more than that, there's going to be no procreation, no family that for that person, and ultimately they're going to live and die alone without having filling God's purpose for their life, even from a natural perspective.
Wow.
And so that's very, like, to me, helpful, because we're just big believers in kingdom through family, that um it's kind of a natural, anything that goes against that. And this is where the culture is anti. If you really want to see what the culture is anti, it's anti-family,
That's right.
big
That's right.
time.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not just the sex thing. I mean, the procreation's a
Right.
major part of it for sure. And you can tie abortion into that. You can tie,
But all that is from the root of
yeah,
anti-family, which really is the root of anti-male headship and patriarchy.
yeah,
And it's pro feminism. So it's like, that is sort of the root of all of it.
yeah,
Radical feminism, anti-patriarchy,
yeah.
at
No,
least.
it's yeah,
So
100%. And I think one of the major issues too is I think you and I have talked about this too, but that millennial age that just refuses to get married, you know,
yeah.
and they just stay single, and they'll date, and common law, just, cohabitate, all these things of like delaying the family process, delaying the natural family process. And it ultimately, you can point to selfishness for that reason, right? Like they're focused on their career, or they're focused on dreams, or they're focused on things that they think a family would interrupt that, right? And I just feel that when you're focused on the kingdom, when you're focused on the Lord, like family is the way. Like family
Mm-hmm.
happens, there's a desire to start a family when you're focused on
Mm-hmm.
the kingdom. There's a desire to get married and to become one when you're focused on the kingdom. And so yeah, I mean, the counter to that is you just you see it more and more and more in the culture. What through the movies, through the music, through television shows, through and it looks extremely normal, right? I mean, we see these pride parades that carry every letter of the alphabet now, and it's like it's it looks normal. I mean, it does. It looks like wow, that maybe there is something old school about the way that I feel or whatever. And you can tend to like, man, maybe I need to let up a little bit or whatever. But it's like, no, like something in me just has a desire to stand against like the culture that's coming our way.
Yeah.
And I know one of the things that I feel like we've experienced like three layers of these things over the last few years. I remember, um, for me, the first one was when COVID first came, there was that push against the church, right? To the churches to shut down. And I failed that test. Like I failed that first layer. I fell into, yeah, it's a time for the church to rest. The church needs to, you know, the church now has permission to rest and all these things. And I opened the door for the enemy to come and like put a flag in the ground.
Yeah.
And then the next layer was the vaccines, right? The
Mm.
the mandatory vaccine. You and I had conversations about that. That affected me at work. I was experiencing the pressure of having to bow to the culture's way of things or continue to stand. And that's when I feel like I really got my backbone of like, no, I failed the first test, like I fell for the lie that the church needs to just sit down and shut up for a little while, and I'm not going to do it again. And now we're in this place of like sexualizing our children and all these things. And it's like, I'm not gonna fall for this crap again, you know?
Yeah.
And one question I wanted to ask you, I wanted to get your thoughts. It's it's kind of the church's natural instinct to boycott things, right? I think the church does the cancel culture thing well. And do you feel like boycotts when it comes to Target, when it comes to organizations that are standing on these platforms that we disagree with, do you feel like that's a step we should take? Does boycotting work in your opinion?
Yeah, I think so. I'm I think it's
Isn't it literally the least we can do?
I think it's a big deal because I mean, it's such a gray area because if you really look behind the curtain on a lot of these corporations and things that you do business with
Right.
already, you're probably going to find some kind of reason to want to boycott somebody,
For sure.
that. So, I mean, it's kind of some of it's like, okay, well, where do you draw the line? Like, if you're really going to go all in, but I think in the case of Target specifically, um, just the sort of over the top marketing of to children of like just just very in your face of you know why don't you start to question your gender, or maybe you're
Yeah.
discontent, maybe that's your problem, that's why you don't fit in, is you're actually not a boy, you're a girl, or vice versa. I think it's a good and right thing for so the bigger thing is, Darin, is that just I feel like Christians in or the quote unquote the church, if you believe that we're gonna, let's kind of go back back to the end times. If you believe we're all just going to go down in flames, why bother
Right.
boycotting?
Yeah. Why vote? Why anything?
Why
Right.
do
Yeah.
do anything?
Yeah.
So this is what I'm trying to. This is what I'm saying earlier. This is what has been opening my eyes to all this. If you believe that the church is victorious and is might be on a dip right now, but ultimately victorious, it informs every other action you should be taking. So the boycotts, yes.
Yeah.
Maybe running for office,
Yeah.
yes. Going to a protest, maybe yes. Or you know, homeschooling your kids, yes. If it wasn't, if how I feel, what happens at the end of times, why bother? I should be going, thank you, Lord.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
one step closer to,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
us going down and you coming back. So
Yeah.
like, and I'm not saying that's a wrong view. I know there's, you know, that I'm just saying like it's not one of those issues to split up over. It's not a heretical thing to believe that the end times are going to end one certain way or not. But eh, I feel drawn to the people that believe a certain way for
Yeah.
sure,
Yeah. Yeah.
because I just don't see how that's when you get into the boycott. Should I? Yeah, when that stuff came out with Target, Nacy and I had a conversation. I was like, she was like, "Did you see that?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "All right, anything we can get anywhere else, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get it."
Yeah.
You know, but if we can get, we need something it's a Target, we might still go there. But
Yeah.
like, we're gonna at least start taking some of the business elsewhere. You
Yeah.
know, um,
Yeah. I feel like when it's about the kids,
yeah,
somebody's got to, I mean, not in my house, and we actually don't do a lot of shopping at Target anyway, but there's something about, I read too much, even in scripture, about loving what is good and hating what is evil. There's a verse in 97, Psalm 97:10. You who love the Lord hate evil.
hmm,
It's a simple little thing, but it's like, what's that look like? What's that look like in your life and your family to hate evil? And when I
hmm,
when I deem something as evil, and for me these days, when call me getting triggered, but when I see an organization or a freaking baseball team promoting an agenda that I believe is rooted from an evil place, meant to bring harm to my children and my family, th- again, the least I can do is
hmm,
vocally stand up against that,
yeah.
and call
But
it
that's a big
protesting
deal.
or whatever. It is, and like, to me, that's one way that I'm going to hate evil, is I'm going to have nothing to do with it, you
Yeah.
know.
All right.
And I mean, sadly, that kind of what separates.
I think the question that you're saying is, what does it mean to hate something in a
Right.
righteous way? Like, what
Yeah.
does that even look like?
Yeah. What do you think?
I don't know.
What's that look like for the Little Johns?
I, hate is just you just sort of assume that hate has a negative connotation, but if we're
Yeah.
commanded to do it, then there must be some righteous aspect to it. Um, I don't know if so, so one thing that I would say that we hate is that we guard what our kids watch and listen to very closely.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, more than almost any parent that I personally know, we are very diligent about it. Um, so we don't watch any shows that, and if anything does come on that we didn't see coming, it's immediately off.
Yeah.
We talk about it, and I think in that way, it's like, uh, what would you like for? Let's relate it to food. Like, if you hated celery,
Yeah.
are you gonna have it in your house or your fridge? Or are you gonna
Just a
put it
little
in your
bit.
are
Just a
you
little
gonna
bit.
put it in your mouth?
Right.
But with it seems like with media, I know parents that wouldn't let their kid drink a glass of milk unless it was like organic, straight, or everything is, you
Yeah.
know, grass fed, organic, cage free, but they'll let them put, they'll, they, whatever goes into their body of that is like watch like a hawk, but into their eyes and ears, and which is really brain and
Yeah.
soul and spirit, it's like watch whatever you want, listen to whatever you want.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big backward. I mean, they'd be much healthier if that was reversed.
Right. Yeah.
Like, um, and so one way we hate those things, I think, is to be diligent about those aren't allowed in our cars, in our house, in our eyes, in our ears. Um, those are big deals. I have a personal conviction about music specifically because it was, it just, I got into some pretty bad music when I was younger. And I love music in general. So it was just
Yeah.
kind of a double whammy. And so, but when you think about what music is, if you just pick, pick one of the top 10 songs right now and just forget about, just read the lyrics.
Yeah.
I think a lot of parents would be shocked
Yeah.
that some of their favorite catchy songs, like just read the lyrics. Yeah, but their lyrics were bad when I was like, yeah, exactly. And how that
Yeah.
work out. Like,
Right.
like,
Yeah.
you know, how much better life would have been like
Yeah.
without all that. But it's you're repeating these affirmations over yourself set to rhythm and music and chant. You're basically chanting.
Yeah.
It's demon. That's you're
It's
talking about,
addictive too, right? Like those
and
beats
they're
and
talking
those
about
rhythms are,
spiritual.
yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you're talking about the spiritual realm here of what kinds of things you're seeing to and saying over yourself. Faith comes by here. It's gonna eventually be what you start believing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's very so in one way, like we're so diligent at that. And I want, and because we've been so diligent at that for a long time, we have so if we've gotten resensitized
Mm.
to 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 evil,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
I have,
Yeah.
like Nacy has, our kids. So now when Nacy and I like date night, we're watching something that maybe we wouldn't want them to watch, and our our spirits are resensitized
Wow.
because if you do this for us like a diet or something, if you detox for long enough, your your righteous sensitivities are now reacclimated and they're not deadened anymore. They're not numb anymore. They're not desensitized to evil anymore. And now a slight little thing, you're just like that.
Wow.
Like, I don't even like the way he's talking to that other woman. And like, that's not, we're not even talking about a sex scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
He shouldn't be talking to her like that. He's
Yeah.
married. Turn it
Yeah.
off.
My daughter better not be in a relationship like
uh,
that.
but yeah, but it's just, and it's not just major things. It's not just
Yeah.
like sex scenes, violent, a bunch of language is easy. I can't even watch a show that's got, but I could have before.
Yeah.
So what happened? Did I just get saved in between the last 10 years? Or is it possible to resensitize your spirit and your whole families, your whole household?
Yeah.
And I think that's renewing. That's part of the renewing of your mind, renewing of your spirit, your soul, all of it.
So
And
you don't, you don't fix that by just removing things, right? Like you've got to fill it with something else, correct? Like you talked about the dieting. Yes, if you can wean
yeah, you
yourself off
got
of sugar just fine, but
yeah,
I've seen guys walking around that look like they need to have some sugar in their bones, like eat something, like
yeah.
we need to fill it with something else. On that,
Mhm.
are you familiar with Jonathan Cahn?
On
He's
Academy?
he's kind of a prophetic voice.
No, I'm not.
He he wrote a book. I heard him on, I think, Glenn Beck's program. He wrote a book called Return of the Gods, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Was very, very intriguing to me. So I haven't read the book. I just heard his interview, so I'm going to shorten this up quite a bit. But the whole book is about um, okay. So you know the verse where it's talking about Jesus is talking about the demons when you cast a demon out,
Mm-hmm.
and he'll go roaming around looking for something to
Inhabit.
fill, to
Yeah, okay, yeah.
inhabit. and he'll come back with 7 more when he
Right.
finds a host that is empty. Okay. So the idea is you had somebody that is filled with demons. You cast them out. If you don't fill that up with something else, the the demonic can come back stronger. And that was Jesus talking about demonic activity. But this guy was in this book, Return of the Gods. He talks about how Jesus doesn't just care about individuals; he cares about regions, and he cares about generations. And so he was talking about our generation. We experienced a time kind of revival where some of this stuff left, right? There was a focus on family. There was a focus on God. Like America kind of experienced this revival, and a lot of the junk fled. But if you don't fill that, so let's talk about our nation. We're experiencing now like the refilling of what he called Return of the Gods, and he's talking about like um, different goddesses and different gods that they worshipped back in the day. Okay, that have re-inhabited a nation or a country that has opened the door to them
I
through
see.
abortion and lust, and I mean it's
Okay.
sexualized. It's very, very intriguing. You should check out the interview. But
Hmm.
the idea of we're experiencing right now like 7 times the
Mm.
stuff at a rapid pace. And
Mm-mm.
until we like we're gonna have to do what you said, like kind of reflush this stuff out, right?
Mm-mm.
Kind of wash this clean again. But it's not just a matter of boycotting and standing against and doing all these things. That's important, and I'm down with it. But we've got to get
Mm-hmm.
filled with something, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I'm the kind of guy that believes we need to be filled with the Holy Spirit. My family needs to be filled with the kingdom and the goodness of God. And that's what we're missing as a nation. And like, if, I've only been on this planet for 40 some years, but I've seen just a drastic shift in this Christian American nation that I don't recognize it, you know? And it just looks
Mm-hmm.
like the gods, the small G gods
Mm-hmm.
have come back home.
Mm-hmm.
And we've got people worshiping things that appear to be natural and appear to be normal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have a question to that, but it was a very intriguing. Check
Yeah.
out that interview when you get a chance.
Well, I definitely
Jonathan
feel like
Cohen.
there's been an escalation of everything, but I think it's everything. I think it's the acceleration and escalation of, frankly, just debauchery, sin,
Yeah,
just flesh, carnal, just anything your body, hedonism, just everything worldly. But at the same time, I think that there's also an increase in light
yeah,
and in response to, or and I think it's just starting, and so it's all feels very accelerated, like it's
yeah,
almost like this it's almost like we were in a holding pattern and my whole life until about 10 years ago,
yeah,
6 years ago, 8 years ago. I think in my opinion, the internet has a lot to do with it. I think it's
yeah,
just, I feel like we're real analogous to the Tower of Babel, and just humanity was all able to, uh, what they were able to, the acceleration of their progress and their building and their dreams and visions and conquering and going to high, because they could all communicate,
yeah.
because they could all speak the same language. It led them to like an acceleration of like, we're going to build this tower.
Wow.
We're going up. And I feel like it's that kind of time, and camps are forming. It's people, it's being exposed where you are,
Yeah,
and there's no I one of the things I've just really been hammering home, there's no such thing as neutral anymore. They're like you're either like on this side or you're on that side.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I that's what's being revealed. Um uh there's nothing neutral. There's nothing, there's just no such thing. And so that's, I don't know if that really relates to what he was saying, but I it doesn't definitely feels like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's those verses are interesting to me. The whole love what is good, hate what is evil. Those are dividing lines, right? I mean,
Yeah.
he's
Yes.
laying out like there is this and there
Yeah.
is that. And so I do think we're seeing the darkness is magnified, the light is magnified, and you're going to have people.
Uh-huh.
There's
Yeah.
not a whole lot of gray anymore, and I see less and less
No.
gray. You
Right.
know, I used to, there is gray, and you can't stand there or that, but I'm a black and white guy. I always have been, and I just feel like we're seeing that more and more. That America used to be a gray country, and I'm not suggesting that we should be. I'm just saying we're seeing a lot less
Yeah.
of people kind of straddling the fence.
Exactly.
They're running
And
one side or the other.
I was that person.
Yeah.
I mean, like I thought that's what, you
Explain
know,
that. What do you mean?
that's
Like
the cowardly.
what are
I
some
just
ways what are some ways you feel like you've maybe
oh, just when I
shifted in
was
that area?
well, just when I was an immature, I mean, I was just riding the fence as a
Yeah.
matter of theological practice, just
Yeah.
kind of like, well, it could mean this, or Jesus, but remember,
Yeah.
Jesus is nice, and like,
Right.
or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But just kind of always that it's the phrase, it's that devil's advocate. It's kind of always that, and uh, and some of it probably tried to. It was probably cowardice masquerading as like trying to be intelligent, or
Yeah.
but there's just something now where it's just like, man, it's just you have to let it known where you are,
Yeah.
and come what
That's
may, kind of.
that's a good point you made too about the cowardice, because I feel like there's being a thinker was extremely popular. It became like, I think of Joe Rogan, or I think of some of these guys that are known
Yeah.
as like thinkers,
Yeah.
but I've seen a lot lately of I see cowardice in that. I really do. Like more and more, like Joe Rogan, for instance, will have somebody on that's just they know their stance and they're standing there, and Joe tries to play that game. I'm like, Joe, that you look very weak. How about you
Hmm.
figure out the answer, because there are answers. There are answers
It
now.
is true. I mean, that's what people are. That's kind of what a lot of it boils down to. Is like it takes courage to just finally identify something and say that's right or
Yeah,
that's wrong.
yeah,
So I'm not just here to interview you because you just wrote a new book on my
yeah,
podcast with 100 millions, and I'm gonna always be the devil pointing out stuff like, just no, just say yep, that's right, that's
yeah,
the way it is.
yeah. Well,
I don't care
I think
half of
of
you get pissed off.
uh, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, right? Like even if
Yeah.
God doesn't save us from this fire, you know,
Yeah.
it's like, no, this is what we're gonna do. Like
Yeah.
this is who we are. We've become these men of God that are going to stand on God's word. And even if it turns out the way you're saying it does, we're going to choose this. I
Yes.
think that's being created more and more. Um, I wanted to go back to that Psalm 97:10. You who love the Lord hate evil. And the couple phrases after that I think are very intriguing, because directly after that it says, he preserves the souls of his saints, he delivers them out of the hand of the wicked. To me, that makes it sound like when you hate evil, you're going to experience some pressure, right?
Mm.
Like you're going to experience moments where you may fear, and you may question, and you may wonder if it's the right thing to do, because
Mm.
they own Hollywood, bro. They own the internet. They own the media, you
Sure.
know? And when you stand against it, you're gonna experience the pushback a little bit. And I love how but he preserves the souls of his saints. He delivers them out of the hand of the wicked. It's almost a fear not statement, you know?
Yeah, because evil is scary,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, but it's it's just so that's I like to always ask why. So it's like why? So it says not to fear it, but to hate it.
Yeah. Right.
It doesn't even say be courageous about it or
Yeah.
be confident around,
Yeah.
it's hate it.
Yeah. One of the translations says abhor.
Yeah, have
Abhor what is
nothing,
evil. Yeah.
which really means have nothing to do with it, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And um but yeah, I think you better get ready because you never know who's gonna do what or say what. But I think for the most part, you're gonna find that you're gonna be blessed, protected, restored, delivered, and it's gonna be a lot of paper tigers.
Yeah.
Um, and and you might have a lot of very visible backlash, but you'll have a lot of sideline support and in a lot of physical and spiritual ways, I think, from people. And um there's just a lot of people that are like, and I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. It's true.
I can't you I can't or I don't think I can for whatever reason, but I'm glad you did.
That leads well into a subject that I wanted to talk to you about, and that's social media.
Yeah.
Um, I know you love it. You're a big proponent of social media,
I actually
and you think all of
am
our
on it a
children
lot.
should have accounts.
I'm on it a lot. I don't post anymore. Um
Why is that? Why don't you post anymore?
I decided to stop posting. I don't even remember. I'm sure kind of told you about when it was.
Yeah.
It's been over a year. Um, I
What
just
what did
don't.
it become for you? Like what was
Well, all the above. I've posted when I've been angry about something. I posted when I wanted to show people what I was doing or a cool
yeah.
place I was at. So half boastful, half bitter, half funny, half trying to pick fights or half being offensive. It
Yeah.
depends what mood I was in that month or whatever. Uh, but out of all those, and we've all done it, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. That's kind of what it's for, but yeah.
it, kind of, but is that what but do we need a thing for that?
Right.
I guess it's like,
Right.
maybe that is what it's for, but do we need something to do that? Because, uh, so I think this is a personal conviction issue. Just I will say that, but I think that I just for me personally, I didn't find there was a lot that I was had good motives for anything I was ever thinking about posting.
Yeah.
I mean, it maybe even if it wasn't that bad of motives, but just I was just like I just kind of like wrote something out or took a picture. Then I was like, why am I about to post? I would always just ask, why
Yeah.
am I about to post this? And for me personally, again, like I said, it's personal conviction. I just wasn't ever like, and then I started kind of liking that nobody knew what I was up to or doing, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but it does come with some consequences because like family doesn't. I do want some people to know what I'm doing, and because
Yeah.
that's fun, but it's just once you're out of it for a while, it's really hard for me to post because uh it's such a weird thing. Like if we just really sat back and like, well, I'm just gonna put this out to the world that I'm at the park right now. Why?
Yeah.
Like, or just I don't know.
No, I get it.
It's a personal thing. I I could easily be talked back into. Now, I will say I'm on it a lot. I like don't I I read Twitter a lot. I like a lot of good high level accounts there. I'm on YouTube a lot watching videos, sermons, golf stuff. I'm on Instagram watching stuff, stupid stuff. I
Yeah.
send you memes and
Yeah.
stupid videos all the time. Um, so, but I just had a personal conviction not to post. I do think it's absolutely horrible for kids. And
Yeah.
um I I think if I could wave my magic wand, I don't think a kid should have access to social media till they're 16 or 18, probably.
Well,
I think it's just that destructive. If you read about it, there's that book, I think, Coddling of the American Mind. Have you read that?
I have no.
There's
I
another
need
one
to
about
start reading.
there's
I need to
another one
start
about
reading.
social media. Jonathan Haidt. I think that hopefully we're gonna one day all realize how harmful it really has been for people's kids. I mean, you're talking about girls, teenage girls that are like uh never before seen anxiety levels in measured.
Yeah.
Um and all kinds. I don't even have all the stats in front of me. Just look it up. I would get rid of it all for kids, anybody under 16 or 18.
I went through. I've gone through a lot of phases with social media. Love, hate, for
Yeah.
sure, and it's usually hate because the times that I feel like I love it, I really don't. Like it's not a love relationship at all,
Uh-uh.
and it's the highs are very very temporary and they're very just meaningless. You know, like you
Yeah.
talked about motives, and it's easy to like, what the heck? Like, why did I do that? Why do I care? I still feel, I will
Why
say this.
why am I
So
about to respond to this guy right
yes,
now?
and that's the big thing for me. Like I had to stay off people's feeds, and I
Yeah.
strictly use social media now as just it is a ministry for me. Like I try to, it's kind of the only
Yeah.
platform I feel like I have to do what I feel like God wants me to do, and that's fine. And it's a small platform, and I really don't care anymore. But I want to faithfully do that. But where I really had to watch it was caring about other people on social media.
Yeah.
Like it kept me engaged with people that I needed to like cut ties with. It
Yeah.
kept me invested in people's lives that God was like, I want you out of that relationship because
Yeah.
that happens. One of the things
Mm-hmm.
I talked about in the last episode was right relationships. And
Mm-hmm.
there are times that toxicity is real in relationships, and social media just magnifies that often. Um,
Mm-hmm.
if you want
Oh
real,
yeah.
if you want real relationships, pick up the phone and call somebody. Talk to them. And
Yeah.
so yeah, I've had a love hate. I mean, I remember a couple months ago calling you up saying I think I'm done with social media, and that lasted about 2 weeks. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm with you with the kids though, for sure. And I feel like
Yeah.
there was a moment, man, when I was like, man, my daughter doesn't really have a whole lot of friends, but she's going to this youth group now, and they've all got social media, and maybe she could have
Yeah.
some good relationships that way. And it was super innocent. I remember I asked you one time during that, I was like,
Mm.
so what do you think about that? And you almost like laughed me off the phone, like, what the frick are you talking about? Why would she have a social media account? And I was like, oh yeah, why would she have a social media account? But it's so easy to get
Yeah.
wrapped up in that, man.
Man.
It's
That is.
it's so easy to like treat that as something that's normal too, and then before you know it, you don't know what's going on in her life. You know?
Mm-mm. No, and they're being influenced by people that you would never want them to be. Their thoughts, the way they see themselves, the way they think relationships work, the way they, you know, understand what's valuable in life or not, or important or good or bad. That's not gonna. You open. You talk about opening a door. Just
Yeah.
charismatics, like that is like literally a portal.
Yep.
Like it's an internet to good things, yes, but billion things that I'm trying to avoid.
Yeah.
I try to avoid and still come across all kinds of things that I'm just like, I wish that wouldn't have popped up right then.
And
And
that's
like
literally what it's for, right?
that's what it's for. It's
It's
designed to
designed
do
for that.
that.
Yeah.
Yes.
To get your attention for money purposes, to get your attention for other
Anything.
thing purposes. Yeah.
And I noticed it. There was a great. I wish I don't know who posted. So back to social media. I'm on it because I find it useful. I find news before, like, this is how I get my news. This is how I see what's going on locally, nationally, world, in golf, which I've gotten into. I follow that. I follow, like, I'm not gonna turn on ESPN. I just look online and look.
Yeah.
I um but somebody, and then there are friends of mine that post great posts and articles and
Yeah.
links to YouTube videos and blog posts, and I find that those are the kind of things I do want to consume. I want to
Yeah.
consume good things. I don't, like you said earlier, we can't just cut off something and just not, it needs to be replaced
Yeah.
with something good. So I still am on it. I wish I would. There's somebody posted a great one the other day that talked about teens and smartphones and how they, this one girl was like, Dad, I wish Sarah wouldn't have gotten one, because like there goes another friend. There goes another. She was talking about how she called, they like, kind of funnily called them zombies. She's like, lost another one.
Yeah.
So these family had noticed this, like, friend groups of girls, smartphone. I think this is about smartphones, not just social media, but nowadays it's almost one and the same. Um, they're just like, oh, lost another friend to that, because they, as soon as they get them, and we all do it. I'm on my phone all day
Yeah.
long
Yeah.
for work, but also not for work, both.
Yeah.
Yeah, but as soon as they get them, boom, these kids are not looking at you anymore. They're looking at that. And now that my oldest, he's in the, I've just noticed he's on the school. We homeschool, but he's on the school's golf team. And so now we've been around more. You can just kind of tell. They had a group practice, and there were some kids that just never got off their phone, and some that had a great time, and some were there. And I'm not saying those kids were doing anything wrong, but
Yeah.
it's our job as parents. So like, how do you take do you want to raise somebody that's present in the world and polite, can look people in the eye, and can have a conversation and can help out and is like aware of what's going on in the room,
Yeah.
or not? It's your but it's up to you. They're not going to do it.
And
It's our job.
it is all part, like, again, as a believer
It is.
of the word, I believe there's an antichrist agenda, and I believe that it's present now. And for me, all the things that are, what we've called evil, the things that we're called to hate and abhor, I believe are from that agenda. And
Mm-hmm.
so we can link, you know, the LGBTQ stuff. We can link all of that, the abortion, the everything that is pro death, everything that's anti family, everything that's sexualizing my kids, all of that stuff. I'm going to lump into that evil category, and
Mm-hmm.
I hate it all. And so, like you said, the social media, all these things that we've talked about are meant to destroy the family, like you said.
Yes.
And that social media aspect, I took a picture at Thanksgiving, and again, I'm part of it. I just didn't happen to be in the photo. I took a photo of our dining room table at my mom's house, and there was a grandpa, an uncle, a brother-in-law, and three sons all on their phone in a row, and it was a perfect picture. And
I
I took
bet.
this photo again with my phone that I was on probably, but it was six males in the family
Yeah.
that had their head in their phone,
Yeah.
and that's a perfect sign of what social media is designed to do,
Yeah.
of what the evil that I'm going to abhor is designed to do. And I mean, I'm blessed to have a wife who will yank my head out of that thing when she's sick of it. And it's an addiction for me sometimes.
Totally. Me too.
And I gotta watch it, but I'll be danged if I'm going to let my daughter get wrapped up in
Mm-hmm.
that if she doesn't have to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you're the kind of guy that thinks we should be uh, withholding that kind of stuff from our
Mm-hmm.
teenagers, huh?
Yeah, and I mean in moderate, like it depends, I think, on the kid. It depends on what you taught them.
Yeah.
Depends on the level of responsibility and trust they've shown. So for my oldest, we are already talking about getting an iPhone, but we're not gonna. So even on their iPads that they have for like watching movies, stuff like that, if they're all very locked down, like you can only go to certain websites that I programmed in there.
Yep.
Never give a kid anybody a, a free internet, like just wide open internet access. It's the stupidest thing
Yep.
ever.
Yeah.
But now he's at the point now he's driving. We'd like him to have the G. So right now he has a smartphone. It's called Gab, GABB. Highly recommend it for teens and preteens. It doesn't have internet access, but it's still like a Samsung, and you can call and text, take pictures, stuff like that. But it doesn't have any social media apps, and there's no internet access.
That's
But it does
awesome.
do email. I think it
Yeah.
does do email. Um, but now he's at the point now where he's driving. We want him to have GPS. There's certain kind of apps that he's a golfer that he would like to use, and
Yeah.
that so we're considering getting an iPhone pretty soon, probably. But still no social media. Um, that's that's just a hard no. Just a hard no.
And how does he respond to that?
Well, he's not really been asking. Yeah, so my other ones probably more like my second probably would want that.
Yeah.
Not as much of a big deal to him, but it's just gonna be a hard no.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? It's gonna be we want to show you what, and here's why. It's just not
Yeah. Yeah.
just a no, but
It's
like,
teaching, right? You're teaching them
yeah,
in those moments. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I just think the risk reward is like the reward isn't big enough. Like the risk is too great.
It's good.
Like the risk, just the risk. So like let's just say you give your child, which a lot of parents do, just iPhone, no internet, block like any website. They say 2 in 5 boys age of 15 have seen porn on their phones, or it's like more than that.
Yeah.
So your little daughter got a friend group, 5 boys in it, 2 of them seeing hardcore porn that, you know,
Yep.
who knows what,
Yep.
that are coming to your house to play,
Yep. That's right.
right? So just think of it that way. Like not blaming the kid. It's not
Yeah.
their fault.
Yep.
They've had no supervision, discipline, structure, right? So my point is that yes, I think it's important to watch that stuff because think about what's the worst case. Worst case, they see something you just would make you sick to your stomach, and they see it, where they get sucked into a community, start messaging someone. What's the worst case? I mean, the worst case is bad.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
What's the best case?
Right.
They feel a little bit more fit in
Yeah.
until the next thing comes along, and
It's
they
so
don't
good.
have it either.
It's so good. No,
Yeah.
I feel like there's a lot of Christian families that feel like it's just either too late, it's too far
Hmm.
gone, the culture is where it is, and now we just have to survive.
Hmm.
But I feel like if you really look at it, like it can end right now. Like it can end with us. All this
Yeah.
crap we're talking about. I grew up broken home. I grew up uh, heavily into pornography when I was a teenager up into my adulthood.
Hmm.
It doesn't have to pass down to my kids.
Right.
Like it can end with wherever I want to end it at. And I feel like if we as Christians, I guess my point is it can change a generation, man. Like this next generation,
And it can change through our kids.
it can change through our kids. And why not?
Meaning
Why not change through our kids? Yeah.
it will.
Yeah.
And not because they're missionaries at public school,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
but because they're going to grow up to be people in the world and influential, and they're going to get married and they're going to have kids and they're going to be influential and so on and so forth. And I think that's how, in my opinion, that's how it changes. So it's
Yeah.
not, so maybe a little bit longer, but it's going to come that way. Uh, so I think you're right. I mean, I'm dang sure not going to make it easy on them to get into the stuff I got into. Like,
Yeah. 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 I'm not going to set them up.
yeah, but it blows my mind. I know, quote unquote, well-meaning good families, and I consider good people
Yeah.
that when it comes to their kids, and what their kid has access to, um, they either think it's too late or the two or other three decent families down the street are doing it, so it can't be that bad. All right. Which I totally understand. It's so easy. It's hard. This is not an easy thing to go
Yeah.
just like put your foot down about this. And it's not an easy thing to take back. But I just think it's that important for us. It's that
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
We're
It's
talking
good.
about demonic things.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not just good or
Again,
bad.
things that are designed to
Yeah.
steal, kill, and destroy. Like to this isn't just
Yeah.
oops they watched a sex scene, or oops they
Yeah.
heard a cuss word. No, this is like
Yeah.
we believe as believers, we believe that those seeds, right, like you said, faith comes by hearing.
Mm-hmm.
What else comes by hearing?
Right.
What else comes by seeing? I can vouch for what comes by seeing. I've allowed things to pass through these holes that
Yeah.
set me on a path for years of like
Yeah, and
dysfunction.
they've scarred you and they've scarred
Scarred
me
me.
because
Yes.
they're images that you wish that you could forget.
Yes. Yep.
Um,
And
but for whatever
and could
reason,
very easily, if I let it, set my path, my family path down that same road.
yeah.
Of like I don't want to strong arm my kids, or I don't want to, take away.
Hmm.
I mean, I think there's a lot of families that have the idea of I don't want to take away my kids' freedoms, and it's like I
Right.
don't think we know what freedom is.
But I think
The
they're trying to attack and I get it, but that's more like symptom thinking.
yeah,
So it's just like, how do we train up our kids to where the things that I wouldn't want them to be around and put in their mind and body anyway, they don't, it doesn't agree with their spirit. Like
yeah,
they're almost allergic to it
that's good.
anyway.
Makes them sick. Yeah,
It's they don't they're so sensitive to their spirit person and that they're just like, ah,
yeah,
like you don't have to tell me not to do that.
that's good.
You don't have to tell me not to eat black licorice. I can't stand it. It's
Yeah,
disgusting.
yeah, that's
If I'm
good.
limiting my freedom.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good.
But so that's to me that's to me the goal. Because the other way is just sort of like you're fighting the symptom and not really what you're going after. Um, it's like, no,
What?
I want you to understand how gross, vile, evil, and where this kind of thing is headed and where this leads to and what this is against.
Yeah.
If I can get you to understand that, it's a big different ball game than just yes or no, you can't do this, you can't do that.
What about the families that think their children need to be in the public schools because we're called to be light in darkness?
I don't think that, if they're trying to, I know this is like, I'm not trying to be offensive to anyone, and I have friends that think this, but I don't think that applies to kids.
Yeah.
I, I think, I think it sounds good.
Your kids aren't the missionaries you think they are. And it's not a
Well,
negative thing either, but it's like, are have they been
yeah,
equipped? Are they prepared? Are they, studied
Yeah.
up? Are they strong? Are they,
I
otherwise,
don't think, I guess what I would say is like some of maybe it could depend, but I think for the most part, that's a little bit of a kind of a cop out.
yeah,
I just don't think it's just like, well, I'm gonna send my kid into something that I wouldn't go do.
yeah, yeah.
I'm asking them to be a quote unquote light, like maybe
A
more than I'm
missionary to
being.
the adult teachers that are teaching them things. And
Yeah,
yeah,
I think we're just like, no, these aren't adults. These aren't
yeah,
mature. Um, so I mean, if you cared that much about evangelizing your school, like maybe you go up there and try to
yeah,
teach.
yeah,
Be a teacher.
yeah.
That's a
That's good.
workplace deal.
Yeah, that's good.
So, so I'm not saying that, but some people, it's hard. They don't
Yeah,
either they can't do the homeschooling thing. So I get it. But
yeah,
I just don't like that reason being thrown out there.
yeah,
I think it should be like, listen, we don't really want to be, but we're having to be. And we're going to pray to God every day that He gives you strength and courage to
yeah,
endure and pray that He intersects your life with people that are kind to you,
yeah.
look out for you, other believers at school, and that you have favor and victory every day that you walk. And I'm not, that's like,
We're sending them off to war, right? If we're
that's
doing that.
different.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
and you know what? I want to be trying to organize my life in a way that maybe one day we don't, if you don't want to go there anymore, and maybe we don't have to. Um, but I get it, it's hard. It's a blessing. So I just don't take it lightly. So
yeah.
it's a
It's
blessing to be able to do it.
I would even say that it's it's worth the it's worth the effort, right? To
It's worth it.
try everything you can try to do to
Yep.
not have to send your kids off to war, you know, and fight
Yeah.
battles that they're not equipped to fight. And we've
It's not, yeah.
I want to raise my kids to honor and respect grown-ups.
Yeah.
So if I'm raising up and teaching my Tommy and Susie to honor and respect adults, and then I'm sending them to a place where I don't trust these adults to not
Hmm.
harm them
Yeah.
and
Right.
to not
Right.
indoctrinate them and to not sexualize them, that defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, it's my prayer for sure that the church, and I mean the church, figure out a way to take back
Yeah.
the home and educating the children for sure.
Yeah. But public school can change. No, and it's not just public, dude.
Oh
It's
yeah,
it's
for
just
sure,
school.
for
It's
sure.
just school.
Yeah,
But schools can change too. I mean, and that's why I'm a big believer in the end times that the church conquers, is because schools can change too with a Christian leader,
yep.
Christian
Run for
school
school board. That's
board,
right. Yep,
a Christian teacher. Heck yeah.
yeah, yep,
That, you know, why wouldn't you want that?
yep. I agree. It's good.
But there are a lot of people that don't. They don't even Christians, they get uncomfortable even talking that way.
So I'm gonna let you go here in a minute. Is there anything that you would add to the list of things that I had in my last couple episodes? Things that are important for families, maybe to prioritize. Are there things that you think is there something in the Littlejohn family that you have found to be like, this is it, this is the thing that we're going after?
Well, we definitely prioritize our time together. Um, and so I know it's on your list, and I know you talk about it, but probably I feel like if you're gonna ask me kind of what makes us stand out or things that were just kind of non-negotiables for us, is that we spend time together. We eat, you know, 5 out of 7 meals a week, dinner together. Um, we visit. There's one phone at the table. It's usually mine. um, but we share, we pray, we take communion and then at night we take our time and we pray for things that are going on in our lives, our friends' lives, our families' lives, or what's God saying to me tonight? You know, is there anyone I need to forgive or repent to? And it just kind of like every night is a kind of a clear the decks with what's God saying to me tonight, and then what are things that we want to see Him move in prayer,
Mhm.
and it's just a big deal.
Yeah.
It's just and it's real easy not to do. If you get busy or you're tired or like I'm tired, I just want to go lay down, or I'm about to fall asleep. We got to stay awake. But um, so I would say that's a big one, and we're really trying to instill in our kids friendship with each other.
Wow.
So we preach it a lot, and so we I really reject the whole idea. So this goes along with the big homeschooling knock is like, but they need friends. And not only do you need friends, you need lots of friends. And I'm just like, I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
Like, I don't, you know,
Yep.
I don't think it is. And I don't believe
Right.
it is. In
I
fact,
agree.
like, you need family and you're going to be like family forever.
Yeah. It's good.
Right. And if you're blessed, you're going to have a couple of two or three good, great friends forever,
Yeah.
you know. So this whole notion of I need a million friends, no, you don't. In fact, like we're really like picky on so our kids have some good friends, like good families, but even they like we can tell when like you guys have just been spending a little too much time together. And we've noticed that you kind of got an attitude with your other siblings back at home whenever you go hanging out with them.
Wow.
And so, probably not going to see them for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
You're not getting like until you guys start getting along. So it's like these are like non-negotiables for us. And so these are the things like we're trying to really hammer home because these are lifelong.
So I'm taking notes. So when it comes to children, no friends and no phones. Uh, just kidding. No, man, I can vouch for you guys. You guys are in Arkansas now. Last time I talked to you,
Yeah.
I think you were still in Dallas, and I got to stay with you guys for a few days, and I got to watch you guys, and I was very, very blessed. I want you to know that. Like I was blessed by watching you guys do life as a family, and you know,
Yeah.
you weren't going to let a house guest change the routine. You weren't going to let me interfere, and
Yeah.
it's it it was real, and everything you just said is exactly what I experienced in your guys'
Yeah.
home. And
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna have 6 kids, you better hope they're friends, right? That's gonna be a
Well, you have to, yeah, but it doesn't just like,
yeah,
that's what I mean. And we notice it with little stuff like, oh, you've been watching too many shows, and hey, you've been on your iPad a little too much, and you haven't been playing with your brother or your sister. And like, so we manage it. And it's not just because we're trying to control everything. It's just like, no, like we can tell your sibling relationship's getting a little off track.
yeah,
You're kind of treating everyone like crap for the last couple of days. It's unacceptable. Hand in your phone, hand in your iPad. You don't have it for 2 days for whenever you start.
yeah.
So I don't know if a lot of families are doing that because I don't interview them and I don't know. But to me, to us, this is like what it is about, like every day. And and the whole idea would be like you're doing it less and less and less and less as they get older.
Yeah.
So we're not with my oldest, he's got more privileges and we're not sort of on him because he doesn't. It's just like it's like training. You need, you know,
Yeah.
What training do you need? Less
And
and less, hopefully,
the
as it
goal
goes on.
is that he
Yeah.
finds a woman and they get married
Mm-hmm.
and they reproduce this
Yes.
in their children, right? And we take
Oh yeah.
back the culture through that, right?
Yep.
That's the
Mm-hmm.
goal. Like that is my job as a parent
Yeah. And
is
it's
to
not a new thing.
reproduce this thing that God's given me
Yeah.
and watch the kingdom grow and
That's
watch
God's
the
goal.
culture shift. Yes.
That was his plan.
Yeah.
That is his plan.
Yeah.
How do you think we got so many of us now?
Yeah.
Fruitful,
It's good.
multiply.
It's good.
Do you know what the number? Did I tell you this? The number one baby name in
No.
the UK this last year.
No.
The number one boy baby name in the UK last year. Well, you hear that? What it was?
No, I didn't. What is it?
Muhammad.
Wow.
So tell me that they don't have this figured out,
Yeah. Wow.
right? And it's not a competition, kind of, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying,
Yeah.
like, that it's, I'm yes, evangelize, converts, yes, let's witness. But if you're talking about like lifelong generational family kingdom exponential expanding,
Hmm.
it's going to come through families
It's good.
because there's no other incubator for it. The convert that gets saved at a conference goes home
That's so good.
by himself or by herself. Yes, you hope they stay strong, get married to another one, another believer. You know what I mean?
That's so
But
good. There's literally nothing else on this planet that is designed to
yeah,
fix my home. Like there's
yeah.
nothing else.
Uh-uh.
No church, no pastor, no anything is going to be in these four walls
All
taking
right.
care of my family, right?
All right. Mm-hmm.
And you can call it a struggle, you can call it a chore and a job, but I consider it such a high honor and such an amazing privilege, man, to like
Yeah.
reproduce what's been given to me into my girls. And I look I look so forward to them finding amazing Christian men,
Yeah. And that's
amazing
the other
godly men.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nacy's been reading this book lately, like it was like talking about how it's like who are like, your kids are getting dating age, courting age, engagement age, like yeah, but are you just like hoping or are you like trying to make sure they're around people that you would even want them to
That's
marry?
right. Yep.
Or, you know?
That's right. Right relationships, man.
Yeah.
My
Yeah.
my daughter, I'm so proud of her, but she's turning 18 this month.
Mm-hmm.
And for I don't know how many years now, she's had a list made out of what she's looking for in a man.
Good.
And the man that she marries is going to match the things on that list. And one of the top things on there, he's going to come from a godly Christian family,
Yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
And we can look around and think, man, that's slim pickings. And yeah, it probably is slim pickings, but we're gonna take back this culture,
No, it's
man.
not gonna
We're
be.
gonna take back this
Yeah.
culture. And I don't care if she has 100 choices. She only needs one, right? So like I'm I'm believing with her and she's just so mature in this of like,
Mm-hmm.
no,
That's
he's
amazing.
he's going to be a believer. He's going to be someone that I'm going to be chasing after, not dragging him along. He's going to be following
Yeah.
Jesus so hard, and I'm going to be pursuing him and
Yes.
that headship thing we talked about. But like,
Yeah.
he's looking for that,
Yeah.
man. And
Good.
we're going to take back this culture. I'm
I think
telling you.
she'll find it. I think there, like I said, there's an escalation of light rising that didn't exist before, that wasn't like this. And the reason she even has that list is because you were raised
Yeah.
in a certain kind of way in a family that,
Yep.
although broken, had you weren't saved at a conference and didn't know
That's
anything
right.
about Jesus.
That's right. Seeds were
right?
planted for sure. Yeah. Those seeds produce.
You
Yep.
were raised in a Christian home
Yep.
from a child.
Yep.
And I don't know about your parents, but I'm assuming at least one of them was raised in a Christian home,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
So we're still like 0 for 4 and being saved on the street or in the
Right.
park.
Right. Yeah. It's good.
And I'm not saying those things are less than, but I think if you graft out converts coming from or Christians coming from a family versus
Wow.
saved on the street, it'd be pretty big difference.
It's true. But yeah.
And over time, like
and
over
it's
all
kind
the
of sad
world.
though. We don't hear about those stories. All we hear about are the big convert stories, right? And the testimonies that are so amazing. But there's something to
Yeah.
be said about a steady life in Christ, man. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I
It's
am more
exponential.
attracted to that now. And my friends, I'm more attracted to that with people that I want to absorb anything from, or the ones that lifelongingness with the Lord. You know, they've
Mm-hmm.
experienced a walk with the Lord. And
Mm-hmm.
my girls are gonna experience that too. Yeah, your kids are gonna
Yeah.
experience that in Jesus' name.
Yeah. I
Good.
believe it. I
That's
believe
good.
that's why God gave him to us.
That's right. He trusted us to do it.
He
That's good,
must have
bro.
wanted Jude saved. He wanted X saved,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
When you think
He,
about it that
he
way,
wanted your grandkids saved.
yeah,
Yeah,
he
that's
wanted
good.
Ashton saved.
Yeah,
And that's why he gave him to you and Jamie.
yep,
Gave her to you and Jamie.
yep.
So,
It's good.
I mean, when you think about it that way, that really mind blowing.
Wow, that's good.
And doesn't he want all people saved, brother? Well,
Yeah,
yeah, he does.
yep.
So it's not just family; it's also,
It's so good.
yeah.
It's so good. It's gonna come from the family. I believe it.
That's how. Hey, Father Abraham, dude. That's how we got. I mean,
That's right.
tell me how we got here
That's right.
without family.
Yep. Blessed and multiplied.
God's plan. Love it.
Well, man, I
Thank you so
appreciate you.
much.
Yeah, I appreciate your heart. I appreciate your voice. I appreciate you sticking through this, man. You guys are doing well, and I love you guys very, very much. Praying for you often.
Thank you.
I'm also very excited for you guys in your future. So
Thank you.
I
I
value
appreciate it.
you. All right.
All right, man.
We'll talk
Appreciate
soon.
it.
All right.
Blessings on your podcast.
Thank you, bro.
Thanks for inviting me. I enjoyed it. Let's do it again soon.
All right, buddy.
All right. See ya.
See ya.